So yeah.
Jace, I'm new to freestyling. What is a Mach to freeset?
I was gonna ask that. I was literally gonna ask that.
Okay. Here's the ball. So here's the ball, right? Wait, where is it? Here's the ball, right?
Oh my god, he's ready.
And this is your car, right? So you get your reset with the belly. You know, belly, and then you flip like kind of like sideways. You know?
It's like you're snapping onto it from the side. You know?
Wow. Kind of like diagonally. It's very complicated, very difficult to do.
Yo, how do you actually do this reset? We will go through every way I do the reset, the 360, the other 360, the other one everyone else does but me, and another weird one that only I do. Before anything, I first did this reset in September 2020, literally 2 years ago. Although I have to say it didn't start as a flip reset, it started as a flip I often did when rotating back in games. And apparently, now everyone wants to learn it. So today, we're gonna go through everything you need to know about the reset and how to progress to it from the ground up. If you have any questions, comment, I'll try to answer. Enjoy the weird flip thingy tutorial. Yo, okay, so before we get into anything, I just want to say that the way I came up with this shot was not just going for the reset itself, and I'm going to show you how I came up with it and how I worked my way into doing it myself. I think it's the best way to do it, and it just makes sense to do it this way. So when I first started doing this, I didn't actually just go in the air and do it. I was actually just rotating back, doing this flip. And I noticed that I got pretty consistent at doing that flip when rotating back. And so I was like, wait, the belly of my car, the four wheels of my car actually get into a very, very specific position. And here I can actually get a reset. So I used that to my advantage, and then I went up in the air. I started to learn how to position my car in that manner so that I could actually get the reset. So I figured out many ways of getting into that position, but the whole thing was the flip. So pretty much every time I do this reset, it's just me doing a specific flip that I learned, literally like the stall. Think of it as just muscle memory. Don't try to think about it as a very hard controlled mechanic that no one can do. It's just kind of a stall. Just think about it as inputs. So we'll go through the inputs. Before we get into the inputs, there's two things that you need to know about these resets. So first, you have to actually get the reset diagonally, and that way you can actually be far away enough to actually flip into the ball perfectly. Then the second thing is that the flip is actually a backflip, but you actually have to tilt down in order to do the flip correctly. If you don't tilt down, you'll notice that the nose of my car will end up too high. So what you want to do is actually tilt down. So see how I hit it with the nose? What you want is actually tilt down so that whenever you actually do the flip, you're actually tilted down. You're actually diagonal to get the next reset. There we go. So that's two things that you're looking for whenever you're doing this reset. Okay, so now let's get into the inputs. First things first, whenever you're practicing the flip, try and practice it in the ground first. I truly think that this is the best way to practice this. And one thing that you have to do in order to practice it in the ground is you have to do a big jump. And then once you do a big jump, you position your car sideways and tilt it back. And then once you do that, you stop. Okay, so that's the first thing. It doesn't matter how you get there. I can get there in many different ways. Doesn't matter. I'm just tilted 90 degrees, tilted down a little bit. So I air roll 90 degrees. I'm tilted down a little bit, and I'm also pointing backwards, so that whenever I flip, I actually flip in the ball's direction. So you actually have to do a big jump and stop right there, because you want to make sure that you don't mix up the muscle memory of jumping and putting your car in this position from actually doing the flip in the air, because you want to actually make sure that you learn the flips separately, so that then you can actually start learning variations, and then you can start messing around with the flip itself. So make sure that as you're practicing all these steps, you just think about doing the flip. Don't think about the jumping, and don't think about the positioning. Try to think about doing the flip, positioning your car in the right place, and then just doing the flip. That's one little mental game that you're gonna have to play, and it's really, really important that you actually play it like that. You have to really think about that. It's not straight up. Like, you have to make sure that you put your car in that position, and then you think about doing the flip separately. It's just muscle memory, so try and think about it that way. Okay, so now that you put your car in this position, it doesn't matter how, just try and get your car to be placed in this position. If you can't, you probably don't even have control enough to actually do the flip, so make sure that if you're still not able to put your car in these weird positions, just go into training. You'll need a bit more control to actually get this flip consistently. So make sure that you can actually get into that position. Okay, so now that you get in there, the first thing that we're gonna actually do is we're gonna do a backflip. So after the backflip, we're gonna cancel the backflip. Okay, after the backflip cancel, we're gonna tap arrow for a split second. It has to be just a split second. It's literally almost nothing. And then this will happen. So you have to make sure that the tap of arrow is right after the cancel. So you press A for the cancel, for the flip, and then as soon as you stop pressing A, then you arrow. With the cancel, of course. So it looks something like this. There we go. Okay, and now you might think that's it. So yes, you can actually do it that way, and that's fine. You can definitely just do those inputs and you'll get it. However, what I like to do is actually follow those inputs with a bit of a cleaner motion to the side. I like to just continue so that maybe I can follow up that same motion and start doing helis. Like that. So it's the same flip, now I'm just adding one little step. So that little extra step is basically a diagonal input as I'm cancelling. So if you don't understand that, we'll go through it very quickly. With keyboard and mouse, it's just you doing the cancel and then pressing D or A. That's it. So if you can't do it, it's just you're not doing it fast enough. Okay, with controller, the issue comes whenever you have cross dead zone. So in order to see if you are able to do this or not, one test that you can do is put on 10 aerial sense and then do a front flip cancel. if you do a front flip cancel and then you move your stick to the side and it does something like this, you should be able to do it. It's that movement. If you have 10 aerial sense. Then once you start decreasing this, so I'll put what I use, you'll notice that the movement is a lot slower. So I'm still moving to the side, but I'm moving a lot slower. So that's fine. And if you do it wrong, you'll actually notice that it will uncancel. Like that. Or it will do weird flips. There it goes. It will uncancel. So you have to make sure that you can actually do the flip and move right after. If you're unable to do that, you won't be able to actually do the flip. And then, so here is a little dead zone class. So whenever you're doing a cancel, you actually have to make sure that you understand how cancels work in Rocket League and which kinds of inputs make you go to the side as you're canceling. So whenever I cancel, you'll see that if I move my stick here on to the side, so this is a perfect one, I'm moving my stick perfectly on the center here. As soon as I move my stick to the side like this, then you'll notice that I have this little area right here and I have a full backflip input somewhere in here. So if I just do a cancel, it will do that. If I do a cancel and move my stick to the right, it will move to the right. However, if I move it too much to the right, so it's no longer a full backflip input, then you see how it doesn't actually cancel. There's a cancel here, no cancel here, and it's all in this little area right here. Here I don't have a full backflip input. Here I do have a full backflip input. No backflip input. Yes, backflip input. So now I see that I can cancel and move with different little inputs. Now, when I have cross dead zone, I can actually move my stick all the way to the side, diagonally, and I will still have a full backflip input. So I can move my stick to the right and it will move even faster. Now, one way to counter this, if you have cross dead zone, so I have cross here, and I want to move quicker than this, I want to move faster than that, you can actually just increase your aerial sensitivity to anything, like just something high enough so that whenever you move your stick a little bit, it will actually move even more. See? So that's a bit of a quick explanation of dead zones, and hopefully you understand. But the thing about this is that whenever you do a backflip cancel, you just want to continue moving your stick to the side, and what that will do is it will create this little motion here as you're canceling. And so with it, you're gonna actually start chaining stuff a bit more smoothly. Okay, so now that you understand the flip, now you have to actually practice the flip. So the way you practice it, as I was telling you, is you have to do it in the ground. So you have to make sure that you jump, you wait a little bit, and then you do the flip. And make sure you're tilted down. You can do it in both directions. Now, whenever we're actually chaining this kind of reset, make sure that you know which flip is better for you. When I'm doing helicopter resets, I'm spinning to the right. So I want to make sure that I learn the flip where I actually continue moving to the right, and so that whenever I do the flip, I can actually just, as I was telling you, continue moving like a helicopter, and that's pretty cool if you ask me. Okay, so little recap. You have to do a sideways backflip cancel with a bit of aero and then a little diagonal input to continue moving to the side if you want to. If not, you can also do it just not moving. Okay, so now that you understand that, now let's get into the setups. So the setups are pretty difficult to get, although each one with a bit more difficulty. It's just all different, and we have, at least the ones I can do are 4. So the first one and the more common one, or the one I started doing first, is just, there we go, like a 360. It's a bit of a weird 360, but it's still 360. The second one is just the one you'll usually see people do, and it's a bit of an easier one, where you just do a little bit of an upwards input. The third one is actually another 360, but you'll actually have to use both arrows. It's all the same flip, remember. And the fourth one I can actually do is just doing that. So it's all just the same flip, although it's just a little bit different how you position your car in the air. So let's get into it. The first one is actually just me doing 2 things. So first, I noticed that whenever I did the flip in the ground, I did something like this. So I kind of did a little bit of an arrow motion to the side, and then I just kind of continue moving backwards, and I just timed it well enough so that I could do the flip. Like that. So in the ground, you just do this motion to the side, so you arrow 90 degrees. Once you're there, you continue moving backwards. And then once you get into that position, you flip. And then what I noticed is that whenever I'm doing a reset follow-up, so I follow up a reset, like that, you see how I end up in this position, literally, as I'm standing in the ground. So I just continue that motion, and then I end up here to the side. Once I end up to the side, so it's basically an inverted tornado spin with arrow. So you do get the reset, you do an inverted tornado spin, and then once you get into that position, then you continue moving backwards. Then once you get into the right position, then you'll just flip. Now, the flip is very difficult to get consistently. You do need a lot of control to get into these weird positions, but once you start to understand the shot a little bit more, and little by little, you'll start to get the positionings just better and better. Okay, so that's the first one. Just an inverted tornado spin to get into this position. Then tilt back, like here from the ground. You can actually see how I get into that position. And then once you're in the right position, tilt it down, of course, remember that. Then you can actually do the flip. And make sure that you learn the flip, otherwise just don't return and say you can't do the flip whenever you're in that position. It's hard. Like I know it's hard to just do the flip in the air. So, but make sure that whenever you're doing it in the ground, you actually can do it consistently from a very consistent position. Okay, so another thing you'll want to actually do whenever you're doing these kinds of setups is you want to wait there. And the reason you want to do that is you want to, you want to make sure that you separate the muscle memory. So you want to make sure that you're not mixing the muscle memory of getting into the right position with the flip. So you want to make sure that you do them separately. You want to get into the right position, and then once you get there, you just do the flip. So it sounds stupid, it sounds like completely logical to do that, but believe me that some people just try and do it in the air. Just make sure that you always think about that. You always think about the positioning, and once you get that perfect positioning, you'll get it. And another thing is the positioning is basically you being under the ball and behind. So 45 degrees underneath the ball. So right behind it. So you see how there I'm a little bit behind. Now, one thing a lot of people struggle with is the boost management. And one thing you can start doing at first is actually boost as you're doing the flip. What that will do is it will actually make it so that you boost backwards as you're doing the flip, and that will make the flip go a little bit less far away. So if I just do the flip as I'm boosting a tiny bit, just a tiny bit, then you see how I actually get the flip. If I just get the right setup and I don't boost, I'll maybe go to the side, I'll maybe go too far away, and I'll be... There you go, see? So you have to make sure that you boost a tiny bit as you're doing the flip. Of course, sometimes that's not necessary if the ball is too far away. Like that. But you do want to make sure that you get a control setup and you can also boost as you're doing the flip. So for the first setup, you get the right positioning, and then once you do that, you just do the flip. Now, a little tip is, in order to get into these kind of positions, you can maybe try and do it from the ceiling first. Then once you get it from the ceiling, you can maybe try and do it from the ball. Because remember, it's always easier to aim at the ceiling than the ball. So you can always try that first. Okay, let's get into the second one. The one people usually try and do. So for this setup, you're gonna need two arrows. So the first one is your opposite arrow, so the arrow you're not using for the flip. And you're just gonna need an upwards input. So as soon as you get a reset, you just move your stick up. And it'll put you into that position, you see? Now, for this reset, it's all about boost management. And one thing that people don't realize is that there's a difference between doing this flip and just moving back. Because if you just tilt back, then it's just a backflip with a bit of arrow. So you want to actually make sure that you come from behind, like that. And you actually do, if you want to, like the way I do it is you do the whole movement, like that. But you can always just do half of it. Okay, so it's really just an upwards input as soon as you get the reset. Okay, now the third way, and the one I start doing now to actually mix with my helis, is the 360 degree one. But this one, you're actually, it kind of looks like a heli. If you even do it like quick enough and well enough, you can actually make it look like a helicopter. I'm not the best at this, I just started learning it, but you can definitely do something like that. You can definitely try and make sure that you cancel properly, and then it will look even more like a it will flow with your helicopter resets more. So if you can do helicopter resets, if you can't, then go into the heli reset tutorial. For this setup, you're really doing one little thing. You're continuing the heli motion. So as soon as you get the reset, you keep moving your stick to the side, like that. And then as soon as you get into this position, where you're completely tilted back, then you'll just press arrow. You'll only press arrow as soon as you get there. The momentum will carry you into that position, and you'll see that even if you don't move your stick, you will get tilted down. So you just get the reset, you continue moving your stick to the side, and you just stop arrow for a split second. You can of course counter that with a little counter adjustment. See how I actually get tilted like this? So what I actually do is move my stick in the other direction. So see how I'm overly tilted? Now what I do is I actually counter that by moving my stick. See how I move it to the left there? So I move it to the left and I do that. So like that. So I move it to the left maybe a little bit. There we go. So if you slow it down, you'll actually see the whole movement. You'll actually see that I continue rotating to the left, well, to the right, to get the heli motion. Once I finish that heli motion and I want to kind of position my car in the right direction, I just arrow and I counter that little movement so that I don't get tilted too much. And then once I do that, I just do the flip. Once I get there, I just do the flip. There we go. So it's definitely a cooler way to actually get the reset. And you should always practice the one that makes you flip so that you can continue doing the motion. So yeah, those are 3 ways. Now the 4th way, the one usually people don't do, is one where I just tilt down. I tilt down, well, with my inverted tornado spin, and then I just make sure that I get into this position, like that. And then once I do that, I just do the flip. And it's all the flip. It's the same flip for every single setup. It's just, you can even get creative. Like, doesn't matter what you do. Like, I can maybe go random ways and then still get it. It's just the flip. The flip reset itself, like the flip. As long as you can get it, that's it. And maybe you could just make it look better. That's what I try and do every time I do it. So I'm still learning. There are people that are better than me already at doing something like this, but I'm very glad I can help you at least a bit. This is really just practice. If you already know how to set up the ball, you can probably do it. If you don't, I suggest you check out my masterclass, in which I just help you progress from the very basics, like just setting up the ball, literally just dragging the ball to the wall, the simplest thing you can literally do, to even getting a reset, to start following up resets with a bit more purpose. And even if you have 100 hours, 1,000 hours, I'll help you get through that pain of learning how to aero. So I teach aero in a very specific way. I teach aero with muscle memory systematically through shots, and I think it's the best way to start learning aero. And it's not only learn aero, but you learn aero and you learn it properly for freestyling, so that whenever you're actually learning freestyle, you actually learn the right movements for every single freestyle shot from the very beginning, from the very basics, from the time you take the ball to the wall to the most advanced stuff as you're finishing a shot. So I really do suggest you take the course if you're really looking to improve your resetting game, to improve your freestyle game. You can check out this video over here on the top right, and that will lead you into more info. You can check all the available videos in the description, and yeah, it's a cool masterclass. I really like it, and yeah, other than that, I'm very glad I can help you. I'm here to help. If you have any questions about the flip, I'll be happy to answer them in the comment section. Just make sure that you ask, don't be afraid, and yeah, that's it for now. Have a wonderful day, and I'm happy to be part of your freestyle journey. Have a good one. Bye. Hey, there we go.